guys, and welcome to Petrol and welcome to this week's midweek 180. Well, as you can see, I am at home again this week. It is dark, cold, horrible and rainy outside, but we're kind of warm inside. Anyway, if you've not seen one of these before, this is my midweek update where I bring you my news, views and information about upcoming reviews, all filmed in one take. I put 180 seconds in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, and that's it, a very simple format. So without further ado, let's get cracking with this week's midweek 180. I shall start my timer. Okay, so first comment last week, back in pole position was Francois G. I reckon you've had the most first comments easily. But anyway, first comment this week, I will give you a shout out next week. Where are you and what you're doing? This was MBP1 watching the midweek 180 on his laptop in Las Vegas overlooking the Bellagio fountains. Very, very cool. So where are you right now and what are you doing? And I will give you a shout out next week. Now then, last week's question was an interesting one. I asked if you were buying a new car, would you go rear wheel drive, front wheel drive or all wheel drive? And even though I am a massive all wheel drive fan and I own a front wheel drive car, I was convinced that rear wheel drive was going to smash this one and win. And it didn't. It was literally a 50-50, about 15 comments each between all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive, and not a single suggestion or comment for front-wheel drive. So really, really interesting. There were lots of people who said, you know, it kind of depends on what type of driving, but pretty much a 50-50 split between us. So this week's question is all to do with F1. So let's move on to F1. I have to say the season finale from Abu Dhabi was a little bit dull, probably not helped by the fact there was nothing really to play for. Congrats to Valtteri Bottas for holding off Hamilton for the whole race. So that was quite good. It was quite sad to see Felipe Massa finally say goodbye to Formula One. I've always liked him, he's always been a true gent. And I have to say that I'm now on the countdown to next year and I'm really, really excited for next year. As a McLaren fan, I cannot wait to see what happens now McLaren have a decent engine in the back of the car. I think they will be quite competitive next year. It would be great to see them, I don't know, dicing with kind of Red Bull around about that part of the grid. I do need to ask you what you think of this. This is F1's new logo. It's meant to kind of relaunch things. They made a big song and dance of it yesterday. I have to say though, they need to do more than just a great logo. So my question this week is, if there was one thing you could do to Formula One to make it more interesting and more competitive, what would it be? Clearly the cars this year have been much greater to watch, faster and more aggressive, and I think the drivers have enjoyed driving them some more. But for me, there's still a huge problem, cars following each other. When you look at the kind of, you know, the Le Mans cars, the World Endurance Championships, there's such close racing. I think we need to do something like that in Formula One. I also want to quickly ask you, of these two, which do you think? This is my new car news for this week. Basically, we've got this, the Vantage GTE. That was launched last week, I know, but I didn't put it in my midweek 180 last week. And then I've also seen some artist impressions. This is the 720S GT3 from McLaren. They are both stunning. If you could have either, which would it be? That would be quite interesting. And then very, very briefly, new video news this week, Friday at 6 o'clock. I'm driving the Jaguar F-Type 2 litre. Beautiful car. I drove it last week actually. Really, really interesting car, and I'm out of time. I didn't put my klaxon on. But yeah, I drove it last week. I'm not going to give the game away too much about my video on Friday, but you need to tune in to see what I thought about it. Clearly it's a 2 litre. It's not going to sound like a V6 or a V8, but it has some really interesting tricks up its sleeve. So tune in on Friday at 6 o'clock for the Jaguar F-Type 2 litre. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this week's Midweek 180. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have done so, give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol for plenty more content to come. Remember, this week's question, what one thing would you change about Formula One to make it more interesting? And also, don't forget, I will see you on the next video, Friday, 6 o'clock, F-Type 2 litre. Anyway, you take care, guys. Drive safe.